Hello, I am that Rob Human, and this is part 9 of my Tabletop Playground mod development series. In this episode, we're going to cover the last of the object types that you can create within your mod, namely the rulebook or book object and the table object. So I'm going to open up the series package just as normal. And this is the state of it thus far. So I'm going to create a new object, and I'm going to actually start with the table here. I don't actually have a good table object handy. I didn't bother to make one, so I'm just going to use the debug cube here. And a table is actually the exact same thing as a generic object, just the intrinsic behavior is slightly different. Obviously, when you go to create a new game, you can, use a table from your mod as the table instead of the default tables. It's pretty much what that enables that to do. It is inherently non-interactable, even in ground mode, and the only other difference is that the auto-generated collisions are not a bounding box. They're actually a direct representation of the mesh at hand. So unlike every other dynamic object, a static object like a table can have complex colliders. So you can have like concavities and whatnot, and you can do things like that in your tables. So the auto-generated collision will just use the mesh. That's basically the big difference. And tables are inherently non-interactable, and you can only import them at the start of the state. So if I were to actually preview a package here, empty table, I'm actually going to pull in the Twilight Imperium mod here and select the tables that come with that. And these are some of the tables that we developed for the mod. And, I can use that as my table. Now this does create a dependency because I'm using Twilight Imperium as another resource pack, so if I save this state will also require the Twilight Imperium mod. Obviously I'm not going to do that, but that's basically how tables work. It's pretty much just throw a 3D model and textures into your object and call it good. And there you go. For book, it's a book is actually kind of a derivative of the multi-state object, just one that uses a PDF. Technically, you can also use a PDF as a texture in the multi-state object, but I wouldn't recommend that. It gets a little wonky, so if you're doing a rule book, just use the book template. It's a lot easier. So I'm going to select the PDF, and I've imported the one-page rule book here, so there you go. And as you can see, the type is a multi-state object. And you can do, it auto-calculates how many states you need. You can also have another multi-state component, just like the previous version. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that. You can also have a static model, which I think is actually kind of neat. So instead of just having the flat PDF here, you could do a bit of a skeuomorphic thing where you have a book mesh in for your object, so that it looks like an open book, if you want to get cute like that. Or if you do rounded corners, and you could make a mesh that is like a pad from Star Trek The Next Generation or something, like a little tablet looking thing, just because that's cute. That's a little cute. I like that idea. The other benefit of doing something like that is, and we'll get into this a little bit in one of the more advanced scripting tutorials, is if I actually set this up here, save, go back, I'll create an empty state as per usual. I'm going to import this PDF. You can see that there's no means to look up anything or change the state. You have to right click on it and go to left or right, and you can open up the external viewer, open it up in, I don't know why it brought up Edge. Anyways, you can also just use the show viewer and pin this, so you can browse the PDF like this instead, which is cool. But like if you want to browse the PDF, you have to right click or use the R key to scroll through, and Control R to go back. One of the advanced scripting projects that I think I'm going to integrate into this series is actually making a series of buttons for the PDF here, and do some clever indexing stuff. You just probably develop that as a library plugin, which I think will be cool, but we'll get to that. But basically, we'll use UI elements to add little arrows to the top and bottom of the thing, and make that look neat. And which brings me back to the model. It might be helpful to actually have like a bezel around the PDF, which you can do as a model, so the buttons have somewhere to live, and so it won't feel quite as like ethereal by having the buttons floating out in midair. If you're into that, that might be a thing that you might want to do. I don't know. Also, I recommend keeping emissive on, even if it is a little bright. It won't look bad in the alt view. It looks a little bit better. It also doesn't help that One Page Rules uses bright white for the PDF background, which, you know, makes sense for print versions, but like if your page rules are a little more fancy, you might want to turn on emissive and make it fully illuminated. Your call, but that's an option. So yeah, I think the next thing we're going to cover here is utility library development. So like if you want to create a series of utility objects for other people to use, we'll go over the two different paradigms that involves. So look forward to that. And then I think we'll dive into scripting after that. So yeah, good luck.